Yes, well, congratulations on Hot White Heist season two. And I want to just kind of begin very generally, after the caper of the first season with the white stuff. Would you, would you share with folks who maybe are not up on it where we find Judy in season two?
Yeah, so for people who didn't listen to the first season follows Judy Fink, my character who gets recruited um, by a queer sort of cell organization that needs to pull off this heist for at a very classified sperm bank for our world's most powerful people. And season two finds Judy at Lesbos too, this new island that the lesbians have basically moved to. And Judy kind of finds himself kind of in a nice groove in terms of like procuring, extracting things. He goes with Jack, his partner, to find this technology called a MacGuffin. It's literally called a MacGuffin, but then that sets things off into a bunch of other stuff that really touches on important themes about like queerness and connection and how like the smallest unit of queerness is between two people. Like you need at least two people in order to feel and affirm those things about you. And there's just more heists. There's more like mini heists that lead up to the larger heist of the season. But I think on top of that, there's this really nice commentary on or observation on what that community is and what it means to be together with people and what it means to strike out on your own and all these other things. So it's a great season.
Wonderful because I hear so much in art about, we want it to be for everyone, or people don't want to talk about the queerness, but it's so
Yep.
incredible to have something that is by queer people for us, because
Yeah.
it's really rare. And kind of on a light note, I just wanted to touch on some of the guest appearances, uh,
Yes.
some of the in jokes. Jane Krakowski, for one thing,
So
I,
funny.
and her line about Portrait of a Lady on Fire being beautiful but not horny enough. I mean, it's just
I mean, like,
it's
I
for
mean,
queer people.
yeah, where else are you going to hear that? Like in media. So yeah, totally.
Right. And then there was a whole thing about what was Carol drinking. Like it just very like, got to my heart. But would you talk a little bit about some of the guest appearances? And I imagine it's fun to have that in there.
I mean, they've really packed it with so many amazing, incredible people. We have Jane Krakowski, Trixie Mattel, Evie Oddly, Raul Esparza plays a really delicious villain by the end of the season. Sir Ian McKellen, which I can't believe,
Yeah.
and Joel Kim Booster, who I obviously know and love. Sarah Ramirez. Jesse James Keitel plays a new character named Morgan, who's incredibly interesting. Sarah Steele. So many wonderful people who I can't believe I get to like share a bill with on this.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I wonder, would you talk a little bit about voice acting? Because you are really doing heavy lifting, and I know that you're, I believe, alone for a lot of that. Because when I spoke with Alan, he said that you kind of lay down the track and then they kind of work around that.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's sort of the wonderful thing and also the challenging thing about voice acting, I think, is that you can do it as many times as you want, and um the consideration of like a singing partner goes away, and with that you kind of get to like fine tune for yourself. But it you do sort of miss something in terms of like, or at least I'm not accustomed to that as much as I am being in the same space as someone else. I got to do scenes with Shannon Woodward this season, which I was really happy about. We didn't really get to do much last season, even though like the chemistry between Jack and Judy is sort of lovely throughout the first season. I think it's kind of amped up in the second one because they pull off like kind of their own solo heists, or as in like it's just Judy and Jack pulling off a heist in a couple of scenarios. And um, I had a lot of fun. It is challenging. It's not what I'm used to. I am used to going to work every day at SNL at least or on film sets, just like bouncing off of the energy of someone else. And this was sort of a solitary thing, which I kind of really enjoyed doing as a nice
Mhm.
corollary to everything else.
Yeah, yeah. Great. Well, thank you. And would you talk a little bit about, I mean, you touched on this community, and there's something really lovely in it. You've got Jane Lynch and Cynthia Nixon as these kind of queer elders, which are often so, not paid the respect they deserve or the
Mhm.
honor. And I think it's beautiful that they're in there. Would you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, Cynthia and Jane play really instrumental characters. Once again, Jane kind of goes from being the villain in season one to being a really surprisingly emotional character in this season. And she kind of delivers the thesis of the season, which is this beautiful observation by Adam and this thing that Tony Kushner even talks about in this season. I can't believe Tony Kushner's back.
Oh, I know.
But that queerness is between two people, that the smallest unit of queerness is two people, that you need at least two to sort of affirm and validate and challenge things about queerness that you can't quite generate on your own. Um, and they're the ones who kind of give gravitas to that idea because their characters have seen it all. They've kind of been through a lot of the hardships. I feel like I get to sort of say that I've gotten to like see things change and things have gotten easier for me, but I remember when things were harder. But I certainly honor and acknowledge like the people before me who kind of really went through, like put in the hard work and laid so much groundwork for things to be the way they are now and for this show to even exist now. And I think those characters that Cynthia and Jane play are very much representative of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you for that. And would you touch on a little bit this notion of queer heroes? Because with all these queer folks in it, well, you have queer villains, but you also have queer heroes, which we don't always get to see.
Yeah, I think queer heroes are inherently on their journey already. Like they've already been set forth into like finding out about themselves, into self-knowledge, into um what it means to work with other people, like what it means to sort of return to your origins and also look at them differently. I think all of that's in here. And I mean, the queer villains have always been, even the queer villains in this story, I think, are sort of transcending what we've traditionally applied. I mean, like, I love a queer-coded villain, but I think there's something about a villain in this scenario, especially Peter Tio, Will Esparza's character, kind of facing off against Judy in the end. I won't spoil it, but like, there is this, like, there are these philosophies that are at odds with each other. And I think queerness is its own principle that like has to be challenged by someone else. And you even get that in that last scene, without giving too much away. So
Oh,
I think,
I listened to the whole thing while I was walking around West LA. So
oh great, oh lovely. But I just mean like in terms of, you know, the hero villain dichotomy. Like I think those are I think like within that schema of queerness. Like it's very interesting and fascinating. And like I'm just reading the script, I was like, I've never, ever seen something like this in any kind of media. Like certainly not in books, certainly not in podcasts or film or television. Like this is a very novel thing that Adam's done. Adam Goldman, who wrote and directed this season.
yeah, yeah, it really is. And then there's also this kind of ever expanding universe because I mean, even the name Clito, I can't remember
Uh-huh.
what it stands
Yeah,
for.
Pluto. Uh-huh.
Uh, that means,
Coalition of lesbians intent on taking over, but now it's intent on inclusion for
yeah,
everyone or something like that. Yeah.
yeah. So even that name, it's just built in that, this world, like the queer umbrella, is just ever expanding with
Yeah.
new and more fascinating and beautiful identities. Would you talk a little bit about how that has worked into the show?
Yeah, I mean, there is something kind of on its face like isolating about queerness that like it is these different I mean the acronym of LGBTQ plus is its own coalition as it were, right? Like it's just we're not kind of treating it in any sort of political organized way, even though it is this political thing of even though it is this political way of classifying things. But I think in terms of expanding that reach and that umbrella and that tent, it is about affirming this idea that like you're not alone, that like being alone as a queer person is not the complete experience of that, that you need to like be a part of this acronym, that you need to be a part of this tent or under this tent, and learn what these other perspectives are in order to like inform your own point of view, that you have to kind of go out there and champion yourself along with whoever else wants to like join you. And I think that's the whole sort of that's the whole narrative of the show for the first and the second season. Is these people who are otherwise self-fulfilled characters, who don't necessarily um, who didn't necessarily ask to be in these circumstances, but find themselves, forced together. Um, make it these characters have to like make that work, and their queerness is the binding agent in all of that.
Yeah, yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
I- And I wonder too, would you talk a little bit more about the community as a chosen family? I mean, some of them are actual family, but and there's some romance in Hot White Heist, but it's not the central, like a sexual attraction. That kind of love is not the central love story of this
Yeah.
podcast. Would you touch on that?
I mean, the central love story is familial in this, and not even in terms of I mean, certainly in terms of the chosen family, which is kind of beautifully integrated into a lot of queer stories nowadays. But I think with this one, I mean, a fun recurring gag this season is Judy feeling insecure that his aunt is sort of more is taking more to Jack or Morgan, that like his actual family is he doesn't have as much of a claim to his actual family than he feels like he used to, insecurity around that. But then the love story kind of like builds towards this beautiful ending where you find out people are connected, maybe on a sort of quote unquote like biological level, but also on this level that like transcends that idea anyway, that family is a part of is born out of the community. And Tony Kushner's whole sort of
Hmm.
beautiful polemic in this season is about community being this necessary, required thing in order for a society at large to function properly. Like you need that in order to have a fair, equitable place for people to live out their lives without being crushed under the heel of like all these other things. And anyway, this is about I'm answering a question about a love story, but I mean the love story sort of has all these concentric circles.